There are moments in life when everyone leaves, the calls stop coming, the room feels quieter, and you begin to ask yourself, why am I alone? But the truth is, you're not alone because the world has abandoned you. You're alone because life is inviting you to meet the most important person you'll ever know yourself. You see, when people are around, we hear too many voices. But when we are alone, we finally hear the one voice that matters, our own. That's when growth begins. That's when peace starts. That's when purpose whispers back. So today, let's talk about why you're better alone. When you're alone, something magical begins to happen. You start hearing your own thoughts clearly. You start feeling your emotions deeply. You start realizing how much of your life has been influenced by noise, by people, by opinions that were never truly yours. You see, most of us are scared of being alone because we think it means we're unloved or forgotten. But being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. It means you're finally giving yourself the attention you've been begging from others. It means you're reconnecting to the one person who has been with you through everything. When the world gets quiet, you can finally hear what your heart has been trying to say. You begin to see patterns. The things you kept running from, the wounds you never healed, the dreams you silenced just to fit in. Solitude is not a punishment, my friend. It's an invitation. It's life saying, come home, sit with yourself, let's talk in the stillness. You discover parts of you that were hidden behind the crowd. You start understanding what truly makes you happy, not what the world told you should make you happy. You realize that peace doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being connected to yourself. When you're always around others, you start to lose the sound of your own voice. You adjust, you blend in, you compromise just to belong. But when you're alone, you can't hide from yourself anymore. You meet your truth, raw, unfiltered, and sometimes painful. But that truth, that honest moment with yourself, is where growth begins. Think about it. Every great realization in your life happened when you stepped back, when you took time away from the noise, when you finally stopped running and started reflecting. That's what solitude gives you. A mirror, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. And once you understand yourself, you stop chasing people who don't see your worth. You stop explaining your value to those who refuse to listen. You become grounded, centered, whole. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't open your phone. Don't escape it. Sit with it. Breathe it in. Because that silence, that stillness is not empty. It's full of answers waiting for you to listen. You're not lonely, my friend. You're just finally meeting the person you've ignored the most, yourself. And when you fall in love with that person, when you build that bond, no kind of loneliness can ever break you again. When there's no applause, no validation, no one cheering you on, that's when your true strength is tested. You see, it's easy to stay motivated when people notice your efforts, when likes and praise keep you going. But real growth happens in silence. It happens in those long nights, when you're doubting yourself but still showing up. It happens when no one sees the tears, the effort, the sacrifices, yet you keep going anyway. Most people stop when the applause stops, but the ones who keep walking, even when no one's watching, they become unstoppable because they've learned something very few ever understand. Growth doesn't need an audience. In the beginning, when you start something new, a dream, a habit, a goal, everyone seems excited for you. People admire your energy, but slowly the attention fades. The world moves on and you're left with silence. That silence can feel painful, but that's where transformation begins. That's where your character is built. When no one is clapping, you start doing things for the right reason. Not to be seen, but to become. You stop performing and you start progressing. You stop chasing attention and you start chasing excellence. That's when your growth becomes real, because it's no longer borrowed from the world. It's powered from within. Think of a seed. When it's planted, it's buried underground alone, unseen in the dark. No one is watching it. No one is clapping for it. But in that darkness, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is growing. The seed is becoming something more. And one day it breaks through the soil, standing tall, beautiful and strong. That's you. Your silent seasons are your soil. Don't curse them. Don't rush them. Because that's where you build a root strong enough to handle the weight of your future. And when you finally rise, when the world sees your success, they'll call it sudden. They'll say you're lucky, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was those lonely nights, those unseen struggles, those moments you almost gave up but didn't. The applause might come later or it might never come at all. But what matters is this: you learned to clap for yourself. You became your own cheerleader. And that, my friend, is freedom. Because when you grow in silence, you no longer depend on noise to feel worthy. You no longer need others to remind you of your value. You become complete, confident, grounded, unstoppable. So if right now you're working hard and no one seems to notice, smile. You're in your growth season. You're building something the world will one day admire. And when they do, remember this moment, because this is where it all began. When no one was clapping, but you kept moving anyway. When you step away from everyone and everything for a while, something profound begins to unfold inside you. You start to see clearly, not through the lens of others' opinions, not through the pressure of expectations, but through your own quiet awareness. Being alone, my friend, reveals your real priorities. You see, when you're constantly surrounded by people, noise, and activity, you start living according to what others think is important. You chase what the world tells you to chase: success, validation, relationships, attention. You're pulled in 100 directions, and somewhere along the way you lose sight of what you actually want. But when life gives you space, when the crowd disappears and the phone stops buzzing, that's when the truth appears. The silence becomes a mirror. It starts asking you gentle but powerful questions. What do you truly care about? Whose approval are you living for? What is worth your energy? And what's just draining you? Most people are afraid of these questions because solitude doesn't just show you what's working, it exposes what isn't. It shows you where your life has been on autopilot, where your happiness has been outsourced. And for the first time, you begin to choose consciously. When you're alone, you realize how much of your energy was spent keeping up with others, trying to impress, trying to fit in, trying to be seen. But as the noise fades, you begin to see that none of it really matters. What matters is peace. What matters is purpose. What matters is living a life that feels honest even if it looks simple. You start noticing the difference between what's urgent and what's important. The world teaches urgency: rush here, fix that, prove this. But solitude teaches importance. Breathe, reflect, listen. Maybe for years you've been chasing money, thinking it would buy peace. But when you sit alone, you realize peace was free all along. You just never stopped long enough to feel it. Maybe you've been trying to please everyone, fearing rejection. But when you're alone, you realize that the only approval you ever needed was your own. Maybe you've been running after goals that once sounded exciting but now feel empty. And in that quiet space, your heart whispers, "This isn't it. There's something deeper calling you." That's the power of being alone. It strips away the fake layers. You stop pretending, you stop performing. You meet yourself honestly without filters. And from that honesty, you start rebuilding your life with clarity. You begin to ask, what do I really value? Is it peace or popularity? Is it purpose or possession? Is it love or validation? And slowly you start prioritizing the things that truly matter. Your mental health, your faith, your creativity, your family, your integrity. People often say they don't have time to think, but the truth is they're just afraid of what they might realize when they do. Solitude forces you to confront the truth. And that truth, though uncomfortable, sets you free. You start simplifying your life. You stop saying yes to things that don't align with your peace. You stop chasing what you don't respect. You start protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And then something beautiful happens. You no longer live reactively. You start living intentionally. You wake up each day knowing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You no longer rush through life trying to keep up. You walk through it grounded and calm because you know what matters. So if you find yourself alone, don't see it as an empty space. See it as sacred time. Time to reflect. Time to realign. Time to remember what you truly stand for. Because once you know your real priorities, no one can manipulate your peace again. That's the quiet power of solitude. It doesn't just isolate you from others. It connects you back to what truly matters within yourself. We live in a world that glorifies noise. Noise of notifications, noise of opinions, noise of people constantly telling you who you should be, what you should do, and how fast you should get there. But my friend, when was the last time you sat down, closed your eyes, and just breathed? Not to escape the world, but to return to yourself. You see, we've been taught that joy lives in the excitement of crowds, in laughter-filled rooms, in constant connection. And yes, those moments are beautiful, but they're not where peace is born. Peace doesn't come from the volume of life. It comes from the stillness between the sounds, from the quiet corners we rarely visit, from the pauses we're too busy to take. The truth is, peace is not something you find outside. It's something you feel inside when you finally stop running. But here's the problem. Most people are running from silence because silence exposes everything we've been avoiding. The pain we've buried, the questions we haven't answered, the emotions we've numbered, and yet silence is exactly where healing begins. When you're always surrounded by people, you absorb their energy, their anxieties, their chaos, their expectations. You begin to confuse their emotions for yours. You start to think, I need to keep up, I need to do more, I need to be more. But peace doesn't demand more. Whispers. You already are. When you take a pause, even for a moment, you step out of the noise and return to your center. That's where clarity lies. That's where strength hides. That's where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Think of a beautiful song. What makes it powerful isn't just the notes, it's the pauses between them. Without pauses, there's no rhythm, no melody, no balance. Life is the same. If you don't pause, you lose the rhythm. You start living on autopilot, reacting instead of responding, existing instead of feeling. And those pauses, they don't have to be grand or dramatic. They can be small, sacred moments in your day. A quiet morning before the world wakes up. A slow walk under the evening sky. A few deep breaths between arguments. A moment of gratitude before sleep. These little pauses, if practiced daily, become your inner sanctuary. A place you can return to no matter what's happening outside. Peace isn't something that suddenly appears when your life is perfect. It's something you practice in the middle of imperfection. It's choosing calm when things are chaotic. It's choosing silence when others choose noise. It's choosing to pause even when your mind screams to keep going. And when you start valuing those pauses, you begin to see how powerful they are. Because in those quiet spaces, you start hearing divine whispers, the voice of intuition, the guidance of wisdom, the soft reminder that you're not lost, just distracted. You learn that crowds can make you feel alive, but pauses make you feel real. Crowds can excite you, but pauses can heal you. Crowds can give you moments of happiness, but pauses give you a lifetime of peace. So if you find yourself overwhelmed, anxious, or exhausted, don't seek louder solutions. Don't try to fix the noise with more noise. Step back, breathe, be still, because peace doesn't chase you. It waits for you to slow down and meet it halfway. The pause is not the end of your journey. It's the moment your journey finally makes sense. And once you learn to honor the pause, to sit quietly, to listen deeply, to be fully present, you'll realize you never had to search for peace outside. It was always within you, waiting in the silence all along. That's one of the greatest gifts solitude gives you, the strength to stand on your own emotional feet. You see, from the time we're young, we're taught to seek comfort in others. We're told that happiness is something that happens between people, in love, in friendship, in connection. And yes, relationships are beautiful. They add color to life. But the problem begins when we start depending on others for the entire canvas. We start believing that our peace lies in how others treat us, that our worth depends on how much attention we get, that our happiness is fragile, something people can give and take away. But the truth, my friend, is this: no one can complete you. They can only compliment you because you were never meant to be half of anyone. You were meant to be whole on your own. Emotional independence doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop losing yourself while loving them. It means you can care deeply but still stay centered. You can be connected but not controlled. You can give your heart without handing over your peace. When you depend too much on others for emotional stability, you start living like a leaf in the wind, moved by every gust of approval and every storm of rejection. One compliment makes you fly, one criticism makes you fall, one text can make your day, one silence can ruin your night. That's not love, that's bondage disguised as affection. But when you start spending time alone, truly alone, something powerful happens. You begin to know yourself. You learn your triggers, your fears, your strengths, your values. You start understanding what hurts you and why. And slowly you stop expecting others to fix wounds they never caused. Solitude teaches you to be your own safe space, to sit with your emotions instead of escaping them, to comfort yourself instead of begging someone else to. You start realizing that your emotions are not enemies to be silenced, but messages to be understood. You learn that sadness isn't something to run from. It's your heart saying something needs healing. You learn that anger isn't just fury, it's often a boundary that's been crossed. You learn that anxiety isn't weakness. It's your soul reminding you that something's out of alignment. And in that awareness, you start becoming emotionally mature. You stop blaming people for your pain. You stop expecting them to make you happy. You take responsibility, not in a heavy burdened way, but in a liberating way. Because now you know that your peace is your job. When you become emotionally independent, you start to love differently. Your love becomes freer. You don't cling, you connect, you don't demand, you share. You don't fear loss because you no longer see people as your source of happiness, but as companions on your journey. This kind of love is powerful because it's not driven by need, but by choice. It's not about filling a void. It's about sharing overflow. Think about it. If you pour from an empty cup, you'll always feel drained. But when you fill your cup first, solitude helps you do exactly that. You pour from fullness, not from emptiness. When you become emotionally independent, rejections no longer destroy you. Breakups no longer break you. Disappointments no longer define you. Because you've built an inner world so peaceful, so self-sustaining that no external chaos can shake it. And that's when your relationships actually improve. Because when you no longer need someone to make you feel whole, you start loving them from a place of freedom, not fear. You stop trying to control them, and you start understanding them. You stop begging to be seen, and you start seeing yourself clearly. It's funny. We spend years chasing people who will love us when the most important love story we'll ever live is the one we have with ourselves. That's the relationship that defines all others. Because when you finally learn to hold yourself, you stop chasing hands that won't. So if you're alone right now, if you feel like you have no one to lean on, don't see that as weakness. See it as training. Life is teaching you to stand on your own emotional legs. It's teaching you that you are enough. Not when someone says you are, but because you are. Emotional independence isn't about isolation. It's about liberation. It's about realizing that you can love people deeply and still not collapse when they leave. You can share your heart and still not lose your peace. You can give without being emptied. And once you reach that place, you become unshakable. People may come and go. Circumstances may rise and fall. But your peace, your center remains because it doesn't belong to the world anymore. It belongs to you. We often think loneliness is a curse, a punishment for not being loved, for not being chosen, for not being enough. But what if it's the opposite? What if loneliness isn't a sign that something's wrong with you, but that something within you is trying to awaken? You see, loneliness is not emptiness. It's space, sacred space, a silent, uncomfortable space, where your soul finally gets the chance to speak. But most of us never stay long enough to listen. We run from it. We fill that space with distractions, with people, with social media, with noise, anything to avoid the ache of being alone. Yet that ache, that quiet heaviness in your chest, it's not your enemy. It's a messenger. It's life whispering. You've been living on the surface for too long. It's time to go deeper. When everything around you goes silent, loneliness walks in like a shadow. At first it feels cold, like an unwanted guest. But if you let it stay, if you stop resisting and start listening, you begin to see its purpose. It starts asking you questions the world never does. Who are you really when no one's watching? What have you been hiding behind your busy life? What pain have you been postponing to feel? Loneliness isn't there to break you. It's there to bring you back. Back to yourself, back to your truth, back to what really matters. You see, in company, we often lose clarity. Surrounded by people, we wear masks, pretending to be okay, pretending to belong, pretending to be happy. But in loneliness, the mask falls off. You meet yourself raw. No filters, no performances. That moment is scary, but it's also sacred, because only in that rawness can real healing begin. Loneliness teaches you depth because it takes you away from surface pleasures and temporary distractions. It strips away the noise so you can hear the whisper of your heart, what it truly desires, what it truly fears, and what it truly needs. It's in loneliness that you realize how many of your relationships were built out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear of being unloved. You start seeing how many times you accepted less than you deserved just to avoid solitude, and that realization hurts. But it also liberates because you can't heal what you won't face. When you begin to face loneliness, instead of fleeing from it, something shifts. You start to see beauty in silence. You start to enjoy your own company. You stop begging others to fill your void. And you start learning how to fill it with meaning. You read, you create, you pray, you walk, you reflect, you cry, you grow. That's how depth is born. In stillness, in reflection, in surrender. And here's the paradox. Once you learn to sit comfortably with loneliness, you rarely feel lonely again because you discover that you were never truly alone. There's always been a presence inside you. Call it consciousness, call it soul, call it God quietly waiting for your attention. Loneliness becomes the bridge that connects you to that presence. It takes you from seeking love outside to finding love within, from chasing connection to becoming connection, from searching for meaning in people to discovering meaning in yourself. Think of the ocean. Its surface is noisy, full of waves and storms. But if you dive deep enough, it's calm, still peaceful. Your mind is like that. The surface full of thoughts, worries, restlessness. But when loneliness pulls you deeper beneath all that noise, you find stillness. You find truth. You find peace that doesn't depend on anyone or anything. The irony is the moment you stop fighting loneliness and start embracing it, it transforms. It stops being loneliness and becomes solitude. It becomes that sacred space where you recharge, where you realign, where you remember your worth. So the next time loneliness knocks at your door, don't rush to shut it out. Don't drown it with noise or hide behind the crowd. Sit with it. Listen to it. Because loneliness doesn't come to punish you. It comes to prepare you. It comes to deepen your connection with yourself. It comes to clear the space for something real. It comes to remind you you are enough even when no one else is around. And when you emerge from that silence, you walk differently. You speak differently. You love differently because you're no longer afraid of being alone. You've turned that emptiness into your greatest source of strength. Loneliness, my friend, is not your enemy. It's your teacher. And if you let it, it will take you to places within yourself that you never knew existed. Deeper, wiser, and freer than ever before. When you look back at the moments that truly changed your life, not the loud ones, not the crowded ones, but the quiet ones, you'll realize something. Your greatest clarity didn't come from noise, it came from stillness. The world loves speed, but wisdom loves silence. You see, we live in an age where everyone has an opinion. Everyone's talking, shouting, posting, reacting, but very few are listening. And because of that, people make decisions in confusion, not in clarity. They rush, they decide in anger, in fear, in excitement, and then wonder why peace disappears after every choice they make. But silence gives you something precious. It gives you perspective. It gives you space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. In that tiny space, that pause, lies your power. When you're quiet, you begin to see what's real and what's just noise. You start separating emotion from intuition, impulse from wisdom. The mind calms down and the heart starts speaking softly, clearly, honestly. That's why every great decision in life, whether it's choosing a career, leaving a relationship, forgiving someone, or changing direction, should come from silence, not noise. Because silence doesn't rush you. It refines you. It allows truth to rise to the surface. Think of a muddy pond. When you keep storing it, it stays cloudy. You can't see the bottom. But if you let it settle, the mud sinks and suddenly the water becomes clear. Your mind works the same way. When life feels confusing, don't rush to decide. Pause, let the noise settle, let the emotions sink. When your mind becomes still, clarity naturally appears. Silence doesn't mean inaction, it means conscious action. It's not about escaping decisions, it's about elevating them. Because when you act from silence, your decisions are rooted in peace, not pressure. Most people confuse reactivity with strength. They think being fast means being decisive. But rushing isn't power, it's panic. True strength is calm. The person who can stay composed when everything around them is falling apart. That's real power. That's what silence teaches you. In silence, you start noticing patterns you missed before. The words people say behind their words, the motives behind your own choices, the subtle whispers of your intuition. The quiet yes or no that the noise of the world usually drowns out. Every wise person in history, from philosophers to monks, from scientists to leaders, has understood this secret. Wisdom is born in stillness. Before great action, they retreat, they reflect, they listen. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Think about nature. A seed doesn't shout to grow. The sun doesn't make noise to rise. The ocean doesn't speak to show its power. The most profound things in existence operate in silence. So why do we think our lives should be any different? Sometimes silence is uncomfortable, especially when your mind is used to constant stimulation. It's in silence that your fears surface, your doubts appear, your truth comes knocking. But that's the point. Silence isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be honest. When you take time to be quiet, even for a few minutes a day, you start building a bridge between your mind and your soul. You begin to make decisions not out of reaction, but out of reflection. You stop asking, "What do others think I should do?" and start asking, "What does peace tell me to do?" And here's the thing. The decisions born in silence, even if they scare you at first, always lead you to peace later. They align you with your truth. They bring long-term fulfillment instead of short-term comfort. Maybe you've been stuck in a choice, unsure which path to take, waiting for a sign. Let me tell you, the sign won't come from more talking, more opinions, or more scrolling. The sign comes in silence. It's already within you. You just need to quiet down enough to hear it. Sometimes the best response is no response. The best move is to pause. Because that pause, that silence is not wasted time. It's preparation, it's alignment, it's wisdom forming its shape before it speaks. So my friend, the next time life confuses you, when emotions run high and the world demands an answer, don't rush. Step back, breathe, be silent, because the right decision doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be heard. And when you act from that silence, that calm, grounded space inside, you'll notice something beautiful. Things start falling into place. People respond differently. Life flows more smoothly because now your decisions aren't coming from chaos. They're coming from clarity. Great decisions are born in silence because silence is where you finally stop listening to the world and start listening to yourself. This is one of the most liberating, most painful, and most powerful transformations a person can go through. Because for most of our lives, we're conditioned to believe that love means pursuit. That if we care, we must chase. We must prove our worth, explain ourselves, and constantly fight for someone to see our value. But let me tell you something, my friend. Real love doesn't have to be chased. It recognizes you. It meets you halfway. It doesn't require you to shrink just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. When you begin to value yourself, truly value yourself, you stop begging people to. You stop running after attention, after validation, after crumbs of affection that leave you empty. You stop trying to earn space in the hearts of people who never intended to make room for you in the first place. And that's when something shifts inside you. You start realizing that the more you chase, the further they go. Not because they're better, but because you're teaching them that they can have your presence without earning it. You're teaching them that your energy is free, your time is cheap, your heart is disposable, but your heart was never meant to be a discount store. When you stop chasing people, you begin to see relationships for what they really are, reflections, not rewards. The ones who stay without you begging are your mirrors of mutual respect. The ones who leave are lessons of self-respect. You learn to stop running after people who can't meet you emotionally, who love your light but disappear. When it's dark, who only call when they need something. You stop being available to people who are only available when it's convenient. You begin to understand that distance doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes it means protection, because not everyone you lose is a loss. Some people leave to make space for peace. Some rejections are actually redirections from the universe guiding you back to yourself. You start remembering how many times you've exhausted yourself trying to explain your heart to someone who was never listening. How many times you watered one-sided relationships until you forgot how to water your own soul. And that realization stings, but it also wakes you up. You realize that it's not your job to convince anyone to see your worth. Your job is to know it, to embody it, to live it so loudly that you no longer settle for anyone who can't see it too. Because here is the truth. When you truly know your value, silence becomes your response. You stop arguing for your place in someone's life. You stop trying to fix one-sided connections. You simply walk away, not in anger, but in peace. You understand that love can't be forced, respect can't be begged, and attention can't be earned by overextending yourself. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. The energy changes. You go from please choose me to I choose me. You stop trying to impress people who don't care, and you begin to invest in those who do. You start to see who checks on you without needing something, who values your silence as much as your words, who sees you even when you're not shining. And most importantly, you start loving your own company. Because once you stop chasing, you have time to turn inward. You begin rebuilding your relationship with yourself, the one you've been neglecting for years while trying to hold on to others. You take yourself on walks, you talk to yourself kindly, you do things that bring you peace. That's when you realize being alone isn't lonely. Being misunderstood isn't tragic. What's truly tragic is losing yourself while trying to be understood by people who were never listening. You start walking away earlier. You start protecting your peace faster. You start recognizing red flags without painting them white. And you do all of this not out of bitterness but out of love. Love for yourself, love for your peace, love for your future. Because the truth is, you were never asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong people. You were giving loyalty to those who didn't know what to do with it. You were offering depth to people who only swim in shallow waters. And that's okay. You don't need to hate them. You just need to thank them. Because their inability to value you is what taught you how to finally value yourself. When you stop chasing people, you stop chasing chaos. You stop trying to earn love that was never meant for you. You start living from a place of peace where you no longer need to prove, to beg, or to fight